long day, I got a lot to say. It feels like I'm carrying a 2-ton weight. I go to see a friend.
Hello, I'm Monsignor Patrick Winslow.
And I am Father Matthew Kauth.
And we are speaking from the rooftop.
A podcast brought to you by 10 Books, in which we invite you to join our conversation out here in the open air,
where we look out upon the world around us from the rooftop of the church and share with you what we see.
Makes me wanna scream from the rooftop to the screen till I know I...
Hello, Monsignor Winslow.
Well, hello, Father. I'm not going to be Monsignor for long, That it just goes with my office.
I know. And I never typically use it.
Yeah.
Because I don't particularly like it.
No, it's weird.
The name Father sounds so
no,
much
listen.
better.
Whoa. I don't want to be disrespectful toward a title that's afforded.
Oh, heavens no. You're not...
But yeah, I have to say that on the level, the personal experience...
No, you are disrespecting the title by having it.
That's probably true. But I mean that it's a weird thing to think that it's not one that sticks with you. It just it sticks to the office. So, you don't get too attached.
Are you hinting at a job change here? Is that what you're saying?
No. I mean, of course, that could happen any day for any reason. But no. But it is one of those things that people are just thinking more in terms of the old school of the use of Monsignor, which has changed under Francis. And so now it's being used attached with a certain office. So you lose it when you lose the office. And then also you have to be a certain age if you're in a local church like a diocese, that you have to be like 65 or older. But of course, I'm closing in on that. Not that that's a goal of any stretch of the imagination, but still it kind of shifted the way things, the way things are done at a diocesan level. In the Holy See, you can be younger and they give you the title because you're working in the Holy See and you're doing certain things. And
it's used a lot more ubiquitously in Europe. I mean, it's not uncommon for example, a tailor or a shop owner sees you walk in to use that term. And while
it's respectful,
there's a joke that Italians have about that is, what is the difference between a Monsignor and a priest?
40 pounds.
Some would say 40 pounds. The fascia rides above the belly.
Oh,
whatever,
yeah, it's
right?
the same sort of thing.
But their joke is nothing except that the Monsignor doesn't know that.
That's even better. That's even better.
So.
Yeah. Well, speaking of traditions, we have some amazing customs and traditions like there's in general a Catholic culture. I was thinking about it the other day when I was sitting in a chapel praying and looking around, and there are these beautiful, you could even say ornate elements, and they're so comfortable for me that they obviously elevate the mind and the soul, and they point toward the heavenly. But I could see if you were a stranger and you were not familiarized with these types of expressions, how you could walk in and wonder and have lots of questions and feel strange. Maybe the way I would walk into an ornately tiled mosque or some other thing that religious that is unfamiliar to me. And on one hand, I was thinking about it in terms of how familiar these expressions are to me, even though they're extraordinary and out of the ordinary, and they're beautiful and ornate and elevating, but they are all that expression is familiar. I started to appreciate it, that there was this whole language, this whole culture that was familiar to me. It was I was grateful.
As if to be a part of a certain homeland, right?
Yeah.
A language that is in common, a land that is common. That's true. I was 14. It was my first time I went over to Europe, and it was a great gift to me. My grandparents helped me to go over, and their reasoning was that travel is sometimes wasted on the old. That to travel when you're young, to kind of waken the soul up to a larger world. And it did that in so many ways, but not least of which was we landed in Salzburg, and or at least our first town was in Salzburg. We landed in Germany, and I walked into the first place I saw that was big and beautiful, and it was a church. And this is the level of Catholic education that I had back then. I thought mine was the only Catholic church. I knew the Pope, who was the head of my church in my small town.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow he was the head of my church, but he lived over in Rome.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize that other people were Catholic.
Is that right?
So like,
That's funny.
It was only one church in anywhere I'd ever been. I had gone past my city, basically.
That's
and
funny.
And I kind of got the fact that the other ones were Catholic too, but not mine. So I'm over there. I walk into this amazing church, and I grew up in a Pizza Hut church. So I did feel dissimilar. I didn't feel like I knew the language. I didn't even know about the history of the church. And so I walk in and I ask someone, what kind of church is this? And he said, well, it's Catholic. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I have a Catholic church too. And then it became this delightful exploration, not just of history, but every city we went to, like walking into these. And then I began to pick up the language as if it were Berlitz or something. You know how when I used to go to Italy, like before I lived there, and we would work hard on the flight over, getting
some words,
like the main words we need and how to conjugate them properly, and we get down enough to be able to move around adequately. And that's what I felt like by the end of that trip. Like I'm a lot more Catholic than I used to be because I've learned some of the words.
Yeah.
I've seen the churches, and I saw how the churches had different expression, but there was such a common flavor, common expression. And it was so emboldening to think, I belong to this. This is my inheritance.
Well, I remember a woman, she was a sweet woman. She was just sort of, she was honest to the point of being a little bit brash, but she was older. And so it kind of fit the character, which is, I don't know how many years I have left, so I'm not going to mince words kind of, disposition.
Yeah.
And she was telling me about, she walked into a church and it was just so unrecognizable to her because
like a modern church.
It was, very, 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 for lack of a better word, modern, contemporary, but I don't know what styles they were going for, but she said, who built this church? Aliens? Did they never walk into a Catholic church before?
Yeah.
And, she was so frustrated by it because it wasn't a language with which she was familiar. And I appreciate that. And I realize languages can evolve and they generationally.
Words migrate.
Yeah. And I get all that. And I think that happens, culturally as well. But there is a certain core or fabric or consistent, substances and materials that are part of it, a certain language of expression. And I don't know, I just found myself being really grateful about it and grateful for it. And I can't imagine my life without it. At the same time, I can remember, as you're recalling when you were young, not having the full breadth of that Catholic culture or language, and coming across, like I didn't know what a monstrance was. I didn't even know what adoration was.
And the first time I heard monstrance, I thought it was a monster.
Yeah, but like, what does that mean? Yeah, exactly. We got some fun. We got some funny things, funny words and terms. But I grew into it. Being from the Northeast, beautiful older expressions of churches were just part and parcel. So even if I went to a contemporary style Catholic church, I felt that I could see some of the common language, but I could also see a lot where there was difference. But to me, those other Catholic churches really captured the full breadth and weight and heft of the culture and language, so much more. So it kind of would sort of become for me the metric in which it would engage, which I would, not that I would size it up, but in a way in which I would experience something that was Catholic, but almost looked like Catholic adjacent. And that was my reference point of what I knew in this, because these structures are so clear in their language and they're so expressive and in a way comforting. Yeah. So it didn't bother me going to a church. My home parish, as you saw, was more of a contemporary style. But the churches all around us were much more traditional and coming from different periods in history. For me, it didn't bother me, but at the same time, I knew what was speaking more loudly.
You had the other, of
Yeah.
which this thing was a facsimile and a poor one at that, to some degree.
Yeah, there was.
But if you only had the other, so for example, in my experience of the Pizza Hut church that I grew up in, imagine that there's no hard surfaces really, right? It's soft.
It's all this sort of wallboard.
Yeah, wallboard and soft,
sort
if
like
you will,
wallpaper, carpeting.
The pews had some cushions, if you will. The whole thing, it was very dark.
Wood with soft edges or light
very
colors.
very little stained glass they had was that remember that period where they had that super thick Coke bottle kind of stained glass?
Yeah.
That was colored, which admits really of no light.
Right.
So the place was dark, and just frankly ugly. And if I were to describe what are the essential components of the syntax or the grammar of the language that I learned overseas and then subsequently found in my diocese, because I grew up in the Midwest and there were a lot of old, beautiful churches. I just never gone. And when I started to go to high school in the city, larger city, I saw the cathedral for the first time, which is a beautiful church, which I recognize as being something that I had seen, of course, overseas in the old world. But I think that one of the singular things that struck me about overseas was just the first aspect of the language relative to verticality, just verticality. That churches were all tall.
Right.
It does something to you when it's a low ceiling.
Right, like a crypt.
Like a crypt.
That can have a vibe.
It can have a vibe,
yeah.
and it's fine. But in a church, there's something about using our bodies with a vertical thrust.
But when you're not forced into like a catacomb or a crypt, and you have the possibility to go up, and you walk into a structure that's just really low, you're right. It's the context there is text.
It is. It kind of feels oppressive. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure. Then, of course, the simple elements that even my church had, as you said. What is that language? I mean, it's got a center aisle somewhere. Right. It's got an altar. It's
driven by the functions.
It's got some kind of statuaries or whatever. There's something there that looks and sounds like something that I knew. Yeah, and as you say, to be grateful to be a part of it. I love going to different cities and just walking into the different churches. Sure. I was in St. Louis over the summer at a conference, and I had not been in that basilica for a long time, the cathedral. But it's extraordinary. It's extraordinary how much time was put into that. In some ways, it mimics Monreal in Sicily. It's got that sort of, everything's a mosaic. And there are good mosaics in there, and there are some really bad mosaics. Right. Given the time period, kind of like the shrine, in Washington. Right. But that style is totally different than the airiness and the stonework and the lightness of a Gothic. And that's, as you say, the language can be translated, and you still feel like you're in a church, even if it's in a different translation. Right,
like Romanesque or Gothic or something else. Well, kind of spinning off of this a little bit, but being consistent with the central themes, is just having a certain amount of respect for your ordinary environment, whether it's your home, your workplace, or something along those lines, where setting an atmosphere can be good for the soul.
Absolutely.
I'm sitting here.
I live in that world.
I'm sitting here exactly in your beautiful room. I mean, it's not by any stretch of the imagination palatial, but it's put together well in a way that communicates using language of things and color and texture. It communicates something that's elevating to the soul, calming to the soul.
Yeah.
And, I think that people can miss the opportunity there, or maybe don't even think about it as an
Yeah.
opportunity. It's not just a matter, sure, you can throw on some music, throw on some, chant in the background, and that can help maybe in the morning when you're sipping your coffee or whatever, just kind of bring some peace into the room. But there's more that can be done. You can create some devotional
Absolutely.
elements in your home. You can use color and texture and things. And this isn't necessarily an expensive proposition. This is just really a strategic one.
Yeah.
That can create, like even going into the missionaries of charity, where they live as the poorest of the poor. But there is always cleanliness. Like you could eat off any surface, when you walk in there. And so,
except for the bleach.
But yeah. So the thing is, like, you walk in there and it's like, okay, there is an atmosphere of cleanliness.
The missionaries of the poor were the same way, working with them down in Kingston. And you're living in, basically third
tough
world
circumstances.
And they would, in the interior, once you're across that border of the gate, the interiors were always filled with flowers.
Yeah.
Flowers everywhere, growth everywhere, beauty as best as they could with the means that they had. And that's the difference. And like, luxury is one thing. And I think any serious Catholic should have a problem with luxury for luxury's sake. But nobility is a different thing that's reflective of your own noble character, and surrounding yourself with those things that then help form you, even as you walk by or sit in them. Absolutely.
I think there is a language of our atmospheres, and I think it's worth the time to think about it and to put some effort, into it, so as to be a context, in which the language of your life unfolds on that parchment, if you will. And again, it's not synonymous with wealth.
Right.
It, as we say, we go into the missions of the poor, or the missionaries of charity, and you're going to experience an atmosphere that's communicative, even in the poorest expressions, communicative of something very noble, and soothing to the soul. I remember either reading or listening to some things pertaining to demonic cases, where they talk about some very chaotic atmospheres as being attractive toward darker things. That
chaos, and
there's sort of a like attraction there.
Do you remember you had me watch a movie one time? I can't remember if I watched it with you, but you found it interesting. I think it was called Limitless.
Yeah.
Where a man takes a pill that
opens up
his mind like 80%, 100% of his brain capacity. What I thought was interesting about that movie was that a lot of things, but the first thing he does when his mind kicks on, do you remember what it was?
I'm trying to. He cleans his house. His apartment. Yeah.
His house was
he gets it in order,
and plates everywhere, uneaten food, whatever.
Dingy, the bad light.
Just all of a sudden, you get to see this transformation of ordered, simple beauty.
Yeah.
I feel that way whenever I want to do a project. Like I'm a clean. I like things in their place. I like things to be clean and ordered. But over time, you get sort of sloppy about. Okay, I've put 3 books over there on that shelf that are sitting there. They're not in their place.
Fighting entropy is exhausting.
It is.
It's a constant
fighting entropy
flow. It's like putting the water back up over the fall.
I know.
And it's just going to come back again.
But if I'm going to work on a project,
yeah,
I have to have my atmosphere. Like if I'm going to write something, my atmosphere needs to be right.
You have to set it.
So I have to order things that are not ordered. When I finish that, it does something to my brain, and then I'm like, there's nothing I have to get up and do.
Yeah,
I have to stay here. And
it allows your attention to be directed in a certain way. In a certain sense, you could say there's probably a background symmetry that is a background synergy that's going on, where it's allowing and facilitating different layers and levels of thinking to engage whatever it is, the effort that you're trying to engage. Now, sometimes, I can think of occasions too where I focus so much on getting the right situation or circumstance or environment, but it was really a diversion tactic.
Exactly.
It was like, I
There's
don't want to
that too.
actually do this.
There's that too.
And it's like,
Yeah.
oh,
It's like, it's kind of like Gober in church,
that's right.
right? When Father Gober goes to church, he realizes the
talked about him
sanctuary
in a
candle
while.
has been replaced. He realizes
It's-
that the confessional door is open.
Sud-
He
and
realizes
suddenly he
that
did a holy
bulletin.
hour.
And after an hour's worth of putzing, he's done his holy hour.
I think we gave him away.
It's true.
It
He's
is.
just being a pastor, taking care of things.
That's true. Yeah. No.
Whereas his curates, I notice, are, they're kneeling down, praying, unmoved, unflappable. And as a pastor, he's probably saying to himself, well,
these guys never do anything
they never do
practical. Well, God help them the day that everything practical is done. And
I know. There's
There we
always
go.
something more.
there
He'll
is.
start a building project.
Well, that's the other problem.
Whatever you got to do to avoid
Then
prayer.
you start looking around the church like, what do I got to do around here? I got to get, I got to get that cleaned. I got to get that.
Well, and that's the thing. And I think, in particular in his church, they're so out of room.
They need
So
space.
the
I
thought
know
of-
it's one of these older churches where you can't really reconfigure easily.
Yeah.
Not in a way that has any sense of integrity with the structure itself.
Amen.
Oh, there goes the dog snoring again.
That was me.
Oh, it was it. Of
Because you were
course.
talking.
I lull you right fast asleep. But anyway, all right. Well,
Oh.
it's actually a perfect time before we go. It's kind of a perfect time to think about atmosphere because the seasons
Mm.
serve in that way. And we are now coming upon truly one of our
Yes,
favorites.
God has clothed his
which is
creation
the
with glory.
Autumn, it's not yet colorful on the leaves. However, the
We're close.
crisp in the morning air.
We're close, yeah.
The sun without it being blistering.
Mm.
This is pretty lovely. It's great. In fact, I'm thinking about I feel like in my house, I've got stuff that transitions kind of into the Advent Christmas vibe, but coming from a summer kind of arrangement, I don't really have that autumn, whether it's, curtains or, whatever stuff. And I'm starting to feel like I need to start being a little more deliberate on that autumn vibe because we do get a nice autumn vibe, a nice time. It's really a couple months.
Well, you know how to do it. Go
Yeah.
buy a bunch of gourds.
Oh, what? The sacred gourd. Put a gourd on it
Put a gourd on it.
and some corn stalks.
If you are in a church and the pastor has put out
Gourds.
sacred gourds in front of the altar, don't chastise him,
It's-
but pray for his conversion.
Pray for his conversion and his inability to be creative. But
The sacred gourd.
it is very silly. It's like putting sand out during
Oh,
Lent.
yeah.
That's
Reminds you.
Can we be creative, maybe? But yeah, no. But I mean, there's some beautiful things like the colors and the vibes. I'm not into the pumpkin spice. I'm just one of those rare people. I don't like pumpkin pie. I don't like pumpkin flavor.
No,
Like
it changes for
pumpkin
me.
seeds.
I do love it. But what changes for me in this season is the initiation of the slow cook.
Mm,
Like you don't mind having your oven on.
no,
And so
it feels right.
I want to, if I can on a Sunday or Saturday, I always
Slow
braise
cook.
something.
Yeah,
That way the smells of the house are
I'm with you.
wafting all over the place.
I was commenting to somebody this past week about how with some dishes, just thyme is an ingredient. I think I was making Cornish game
Yes.
hens, basically little chickens. And, the process wasn't complicated. Not really. But you put a sort of a quasi-dry rub on the skin, and it's meant to sit for a minimum of 4 to 24 hours. And you think, well, the prep time is a long time.
Yeah.
But it's because thyme is an ingredient
Yes.
here.
It changes things.
Yeah. And so I think like on Sundays, that's not a bad thing. Like,
Yeah.
okay, but I need to think in the morning
I know.
because if thyme is an ingredient, I got to get the ingredient going.
That's right.
Well,
I don't find that over the long course of time, knowing you become more savory, but it doesn't work for all dishes.
that's true. I made I was watching these chefs. I think they have YouTube channel. It's called Fallow, Fallow.
Hmm.
A lot of fun. They're funny guys, but they do a really good job in walking you through sort of professional chef like training, not to teach you. They don't treat you like a student. They just teach you as they go about one dish or another, and they walk through. They like one video was walking through Michelin star recipes from each decade, right? Like that's kind of fun to watch them cook the
definitely.
Michelin star recipe, and you see a little bit of the evolution of the cooking, right? Or so you pick up skills and whatever just by watching them, and you learn some food science along the way. Well, they made a potato in this one video. They made a potato dish he regarded as the best potato dish ever. Well, just watching him make it. Like I'm not going to do this.
Was a masterclass.
Of course I have to, right? I've got to try to.
Did you pull it off?
I did it. However, because they're not really communicating recipes, they're not telling you quantities of things. Not really. So when they ladle some broth over a layer of potato, or they layer some clarified butter, they're not telling you what the quantities are, right? Because they're just cooking. And so I was probably a little too generous with the rarefied butter and probably some of the broth. So I didn't quite land it perfectly, but boy, the flavors were solid.
Nice.
They were just solid.
Pursuant to this discussion.
Took 2 hours. 2 hours of the slow cook. Because the temp was like 250.
Nice.
Sorry, what were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say that having learned in the course of doing these chats with you that you're at some point going to talk about food. I was extremely hungry before we started.
And now?
Right before you got here, I ran into the kitchen and grabbed something to eat. I
That's
don't want to
good
be in that
thinking.
position again. I was thinking ahead.
That's good. Well, don't watch Fallow if you're hungry.
Oh, man.
Because you're going to be inspired
No, I will.
to just
No, I will.
jump into the kitchen and start.
Right.
And the other, all right, I'm just going to leave this for now, and we will return to it. But as I continue my perpetual and never-ending food journey, I am struck now by the realization, which was so obvious, I can't believe I didn't think about it consciously before, that struck by how the fact that the vegetative world is truly the world of flavor. When you're cooking, like you can look at a protein, right? You're going to have a certain very nice, beautiful flavor with beef, a nice, beautiful flavor with chicken or pork or seafood, but they're one notes, right? Everything else is largely coming out of the vegetative world. All the from the oils to the spices to the actual vegetables, and if a person locks in on thinking about food just of the protein.
Oh, I got to say it. I won't say who.
Okay.
But I have a friend, and if I say, "What would you like for dinner?"
Mm-hmm.
and I'll be the one cooking, right?
Right.
And it's always the same thing. I think we should have beef. I think we should have chicken. I'm like, there are only 4 animals that we eat. I got the animal part. I'll get an animal.
It's like,
right? But that's not what we're eating.
No,
I need to understand the concept here.
It's the vegetative world that makes all these amazing things. Granted, there's a dairy, I get that, but
sure.
But oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And so my respect for the vegetable, I'm going to say vegetable, but I mean vegetative world because it includes fruits,
spices
spices, everything is just so high right now.
Yeah.
That I can't.
That's where the color palette is.
It is.
Otherwise, it's black and white.
Otherwise, it's you just have these kind of one notes. Now, granted, like beef, its general flavor is butter.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's what's coming naturally through with its own unique flavors, whether it's age, whatever. But it's a beautiful, amazing, and extraordinary flavor. But that's just not going to happen, right? Like you're just not going to eat beef all the time.
Yeah.
Because it's just, at some point you'll get sick of it.
Yep.
And at some point you'll get sick of the pork or the chicken or whatever.
That's the creation.
Yeah, but what you can do with the vegetative world
I'm out of here. I'm going to go eat.
Yeah. like with how you can transform an egg, how you can transform a chicken breast, how you can it's all coming from that world. And I think that what the epiphany for me was just seeing where it's coming from and growing in respect for that whole world. Because so often, especially Americans, we think, vegetables, eat your vegetables. Like as though it's sort of something you have to eat for nutrition. But the real good stuff is the protein.
Yeah.
No. It just was a huge, not that, again, that I didn't have respect for it.
It was a mental shift in you.
But I've been, over the past couple of years, finding myself craving vegetable dishes. And now I know why. It's because the flavors. It's the flavors. It's this is the world of flavor. This is Eden. This is... Anyway.
Well, you definitely ate the apple.
We're definitely returning to this topic. All right, that's before
Fair
we go.
enough.
All right, that's you before you.
No, I'm good. I will close out.
You'll give me an amen on that?
With an amen.
All right.
Just a solid amen. And I'm gonna go get something to eat.
Sounds good.
God bless you all.
See you there.
Makes me wanna scream from the rooftop to the screen.
Thanks for listening to this episode of From the Rooftop.
For updates about new episodes, special guests, and exclusive deals for From the Rooftop listeners, sign up at rooftoppodcast.com.
And remember, for more great ways to deepen your faith, check out all the spiritual resources available at tanbooks.com.
And we'll see you again next time.
From the Rooftop.